Hi.
Oh, look at all those happy faces. How awesome is this? Okay. Oh, this is so awesome.
Good
I'm loving it.
afternoon, sir. Happy to see you.
Oh, very happy to see you too, my friend.
Happy to see.
Thank you very much for allowing me to come and talk with you today. That's fantastic.
Great.
All right. Where are we? So we've got a few more
My
friends
first
joining us as
sister.
well. All right.
Children, let's all welcome Mr. CRAN together. Can we say welcome to Craftful School? Together?
Welcome to Craftful School.
Welcome to Craft World School. See.
Wake up, Craftful School.
Great.
Thank you very much for that lovely welcome. I'm really going to enjoy this afternoon. This is going to be lots of fun. All right. Okay. So we've still got some more friends to arrive here, Majula, or we got it?
Yeah, just
Okay,
we can
that's okay.
2 more minutes to join. Let them join. We can start exactly at 12:30.
Okay, so put your hand up if you've got some questions for me for later on. Anyone got any questions for me? Oh, very good. You got a thumbs up there. Awesome, very good. Oh, I'm really looking forward to this. So you have to ask me lots of questions. You've got to make me work today. So anything about airplanes, helicopters, rockets, anything that flies, I will do my best to answer your questions. Please don't ask me much about boats and submarines. I don't know much about boats and submarines. It's all things that fly. Like I've got this big rocket up above my head here, up there. So yeah. All right. Very cool. So is it very hot? Is it very hot in India, South India at the moment? You got?
It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, Brisbane's pretty okay at the moment too. Not hot. Yeah, it's going to get very hot in Brisbane soon.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So how is everyone enjoying working and doing school from home? Is it okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we did it for a little while here in Brisbane in Australia.
The Book of Space.
The book of, oh, wait, can you hold that up again, please? Oh, that's fantastic. The Book of Space. I like that. Oh, have you got some questions out of that?
Knowledge Masters Book of Outer Space.
Questions
Knowledge Masters Outer Space. Okay, well, heck, you might not even need me today. You might have all the questions answered in your books.
Yeah, there are question and answers in this.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's lots of other things you can ask me anyway. So, all right.
Like the about why gravity is not there in the space. Like that, the question.
Sometimes it's a little bit hard to hear you at times when sometimes your internet connection cuts out, but I'm going to do my very best to make sure I can stay connected with all of you. Where are we here?
May I ask a question, sir?
Well, we've got enough time. What's your question, young man?
Yeah, I think you are a pilot. So
That's
have
right.
you flown all around the world? Can you name some countries that you have flown?
Okay, well, mainly Australia. So I learned to fly in Australia, and I've flown. I'll show you some photographs of some of the airplanes I've flown. I've mainly flown around the Pacific and Eastern Asia, so up towards Thailand, Indonesia, across the top of the Philippines, over to China and Japan. That's mainly where I've flown. So I've not flown all around the world. So there's certainly a lot of countries, like I haven't been to the mainland the United States, and I haven't been to India or Europe. I've been mainly around the Southeast Asia region. And I'll show you some
I
of the
guess you are
airplanes.
really lucky to go to all these places.
Oh, I love what I do. That's why I am so blessed, because I love flying, and I just really love what I do. And that's the best part. I get to do things I really enjoy doing. So, yeah. So, what do you think, Zayan? Is that the sort of do you think it'd be a good idea to be a pilot when you grow up?
Yeah, I wish I could be.
Yeah.
I want to travel all around the world when I grow up.
Being a pilot's a good way to do that, and you get paid to do it as well.
Yeah.
And it's just so
I
much
wish I would be
fun.
a pilot then.
Yeah, it's so much fun flying airplanes. I really, 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 really love it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, my pleasure, mate. There'll be more time for questions a bit later as well. Okay.
Sir, I have a question. How you
What's your
feel?
question?
How you feel in the rocket? How you feel in the inside the rocket?
Well, I've never actually flown a rocket. There's only been about 600 people across the whole world that have been in a rocket to space. Very, very, very few people have gone up there. I've actually met 2 astronauts, and but how you feel? You know, it's probably the same as me when I'm in an airplane. Is you're preparing your mind. So when you jump into an airplane, you are doing what you're trained to do. So you're thinking, right, you're following your procedures, lining up on the runway. We set the takeoff flap settings, we check the controls, we program the computer, and then we take off. And you're thinking, okay, if something goes wrong now, I'm ready for it. So astronauts would be thinking the same. They're thinking, they're managing the situation, and then they're ready if something happens to go wrong. And they're going to use their training to do that.
Actually, you have been actually as a pilot, as Zayan said. You are a pilot. So, what can you teach us about space? Have you ever gone to space?
No, I've not gone to space. Okay, now you are familiar. Now, do you measure everything? I've never been to India, so you'll have to help me. Do you measure your distances in kilometers?
If you measure them in kilometers, that will be a lot. No, you don't.
Okay, so you know what a kilometer is. It's 1,000 meters. You use kilometers in India. Very good. Okay, well, up to the sky, how many kilometers is it to space? How many kilometers? Have a guess.
Here in space, do we make house in space?
No, it's less than 1,000.
Yeah,
like
no,
these.
less than 1,000. I don't think so, because we're doing it in measuring it in kilometers.
That's right. So how many kilometers do you think, Tazan, how many kilometers to space do you think it is?
Is it 800 kilometers? Space, past,
What Okay.
yeah, sorry.
How many do you think, Zayan?
Excuse me, Midila. Excuse me, Mr. Sarah, that we can start the session by introducing Mr. CRAN. Midila.
Oh, I'm ready to go. I'm
Yes,
ready to go. All
Children,
right.
we can have the Q&A session after at the end of the session. All right. Is that fine?
Okay.
He's ready to give you all the answers and all the clarifications. So just wait. We have a lot of things to watch now. Let's not waste his time. All right. At the end of the session, we can have all the Q&A. Is that fine, children?
Yeah.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Grant. Yeah. Let's carry on.
My pleasure. Well, let's get underway. All right, team. Well, I am so glad that I managed to connect with your teacher on the internet and that I can come here today. So, you know, my name's CRAN. And so it's a bit like cranberry. You just don't have to worry about the berry part. But if you call me Berry, that's okay. Now, most of you know I'm a pilot. So I started learning to fly airplanes when I was 14 years old. I've had my pilot's license since I was 16. I used to take my teachers from school flying because I needed somebody with a car and a driver's license to get me to the airport because I was allowed to fly airplanes, but I was not allowed to drive cars. So I used to take my teachers from school flying while I was still in high school. So I'm going to show you some photos. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to go through a presentation about a little bit about me, and then we're going to talk about some rocket science. And so it'll be very accurate for some of you. There'll be some areas where we might have to extend you a little bit, but that's okay. We can have questions afterwards. So I'm just sharing my screen here now. Hang on, I'm just going to get this one ready. Okay. Can you tell me when my screen has... Actually, before we go, here we go. So we see Australia there?
Yeah.
Okay, so over here is India. So you're down here somewhere, is that correct? You're down the southern part of India?
Yeah.
Around there? Okay, so Australia is over here. And I'm, so I'm on the eastern side. So this area to the east of it, and I'll just zoom right in and I'll show you my hometown. All right. So there it is there. That's Brisbane. So that's the Brisbane airport there, and I'm out this way. So you can see this town here, Marumba Downs, that's where I live, right there. And if we scroll back out, it's on the eastern side of Australia, near Brisbane. So a fair way from India, but it doesn't really matter because we've got Zoom and we can connect there. Okay, so that's where I am. I was going to, where am I Zoom meeting? So now I'm going to stop sharing that screen and share another one with you. So, oh, hang on. Share. All right, sharing this one, share that, and I'm going to go to full screen. Okay, can we all see full screen there now?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, so this is some rocket science and some big rockets taking off, some really, really cool stuff. So flicking on. So like you say, I'm an airline pilot. When I started flying the airlines, that was the first type of airliner I flew. That's an airplane called a Dash 8. I've flown that very airplane. You can see up the tail near the red tail here, you see 5 letters, VHSBV. That's the registration of the airplane. I've flown that exact airplane you can see in that picture. Also flown this one, the Airbus A320, the Airbus A330. That was my favorite jet. I love flying the A330. That's such a nice airplane. And I've also flown the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Along with that, there was about 25 other different airplane types I've flown, about 20 other different airplane types, helicopters and gliders that I've flown throughout my airline career since I've been flying when I was a teenager. So the orange and black one, you can see top of the screen. I actually used to own a share in that airplane. That used to be mine. So that was lots of fun. So what is a rocket? All right. So when you young people hear that word rocket, what adjectives, what descriptive words come to mind when you hear that word rocket? Can you tell me?
Like
Fire?
yeah.
Like they are thrusting up.
Thrusting. I like that word. It's a thrust. So yes. So a rocket is a vehicle. It has everything it needs to create a pushing force in one direction called thrust, which then pushes the rocket in the other direction. So it's very, very simple. It has everything it needs to do that. So how is a jet engine different to a rocket engine? Because a very common question is, well, aeroplanes fly, rockets fly, so can an aeroplane go into space? And the answer is no, an aeroplane can't go into space. It's very different. So aeroplanes have different engines, all right? Like us, we breathe. We have to breathe in air to get oxygen to stay alive. Jet engines are exactly the same. They suck in air at the front, they get the oxygen, mix it with the fuel, and then they ignite the fuel to create that pushing force, that thrust force in the other direction. Rockets carry their own oxygen. They don't have to breathe. Jet engines have to breathe. Okay. Who invented the rocket? Who can tell me? Have any of you got any ideas? Who invented the rocket?
Um,
Don't be afraid. Have a go. Just remember to unmute. It was people. I'll give you a clue. It was a long time ago, before your grandparents, granddads, great-granddads, grandfathers, granddad. It was more than 1,000 years ago. Who invented the rocket? This group of people from a particular country. Can you tell me some country names? It wasn't Australia. It was not India. It was not the people from England. So do you know of any other country names you can think of? It was not America. What was that?
Australia.
Not Australia, mate.
Is
Okay.
it Galileo?
No. Okay. Paris. No, it wasn't France.
That's it's not.
US.
That's it.
Right.
USA. Okay.
All right. Well. Okay. Well. Okay. Well, if you look on some of the things around your house, a lot of them will have a label, and it'll say "Made in."
USA or Russia?
Not the USA. It'll say "Made in China." It was the ancient Chinese people who invented the rocket more than 1,000 years ago. Okay, so the ancient Chinese, they invented gunpowder, and it was a complete accident. They invented gunpowder when they were trying to make gold. They were trying to make gold or the elixir of life, depending on whose story you listen to. They were trying to do something, but by accident, they made gunpowder. And another thing we have in China is bamboo. Now, is bamboo solid or is bamboo hollow? What do we think?
Bamboo.
Yep, bamboo. Oh, so is it empty or is it solid? Do we know? It's empty. So the ancient Chinese people found that bamboo made really good rocket motor casings. So they got that bamboo, packed it full of their gunpowder, and invented the ancient Chinese rocket engines. All right. Then it was hundreds and hundreds of years until this fellow came along. Now, just look at this guy. He really, really needs to get a new hairdresser, don't you think? He needs to get a new haircut. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone know who this chap is?
I know him. I can't get the name into my mind.
All right. That is Sir Isaac Newton. Now, Isaac Newton wrote 3 very important rules about things that move. And it is his 3rd law. So you look at my rocket here, for every action, which is that pushing force, you'll have an equal and opposite reaction, which pushes the rocket along. So he wrote those rules about things that move, known as Newton's laws of motion. It's his 3rd law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, which is the most obvious one that is relevant to space flight and rockets. Now, Newton also figured out how to get into space, however, not with a rocket. He uses a cannon. He imagined using a cannon to get into space. So I'm just going to play this video. So Isaac Newton imagined firing a cannon from the top of an extremely tall mountain, but gravity pulls the ball down. If its speed is low, the cannonball hits the earth near the mountain. The higher the speed, the further away the cannonball will land. So Newton imagined that if its speed was high enough, the cannonball would fly all the way around the earth and settle into orbit. So that's Isaac Newton's cannon. And that's how he imagined to get into space. Now, Isaac Newton also calculated how fast his cannonball would have to go. He calculated orbital velocity. Now, velocity, that's a scientific word which you use for measuring speed. So how many kilometers per hour do you think you have to go to get into space? Can you tell me? How many kilometers per hour?
I can get my ideas now.
Okay. More than 800. It's more than 800 kilometers per hour.
1,500.
More than 1,500.
3,000 kilometers per hour.
More than 3,000 kilometers per hour.
Million.
Okay, it's more than 10,000 kilometers per hour.
11,000 kilometers.
It's more than 20,000 kilometers per hour.
So it's nothing but thousands.
It's still in the thousands. So,
Kilometers.
all right, it's more than 25. It's less than, it's 28,800 kilometers per hour. Now, I've just noticed I've got an error there. I've got MPH because I was showing this presentation to some American students. 28,800 kilometers per hour or 8 kilometers per second. Okay, that's how fast you have to go to get into orbit. It's pretty quick. Now, then it was hundreds of years after Newton that this team of scientists from Germany came along, led by Dr. Werner von Braun. You can see him there circled with the red. He built the V2 rocket for the German army. And after World War II, Dr. von Braun and most of his team went to America and they started to make rockets for science. And one of those first scientific flights was the first living creature in space. So what do we think? Was it a man?
Dog.
Dog? What about a monkey?
Dog.
Astro dog, okay.
But
What about a cat?
It's Luca, right? Luca, right?
What about the mouse?
Non-dog.
Fruit fly? Was it a
Basically,
tortoise?
it was lemon chick.
It was a dog.
Dog or
Okay.
it was a lemon chick.
You ready?
Yes.
Dog.
It was fruit fly.
Fruit flies. Okay. Who was thinking dog and monkey? Who was
Me.
thinking the
I
dog
was
and the monkey?
Dog.
Okay.
I said dog.
Okay. Dog and monkey were the first large mammals to go into space. The first animals, the first living creature were fruit flies on one of those rockets built by the German scientists. Okay. All right. So that was in America. In Russia, they were very keen to get in on the space business as well. They developed the world's first satellite, and that's it there. It's called Sputnik. And all Sputnik did was go beep, 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 beep. That's it. It went beep, beep, beep for 3 weeks until the batteries went flat. That's all it did. But it was the start of the space race between Russia and America. Then we started to launch larger animals. And this is where some of you were thinking Laika, the dog and monkey. Russia were first. They launched Laika the dog. Now, where do you think they got the dog from? Where do you think the Russian scientists got the dog from? Did they go to their local pet shop and buy the dog? Did they say, can I buy that cute fluffy one at the pet shop?
Is it a trained one?
No, they like specially trained. All right. Well, Laika the dog.
I have a question.
Yeah, what's your question?
Over here, I was opening a book. So at that time, what was it said here? The question is, what was the first living thing to go into space?
Yeah, so the first
that
living
will-
thing to go to space was the fruit flies. Okay. Now they went to space. Now, Laika the dog, she was the first animal to go into orbit around the Earth. The fruit flies just went up because it's only 100 kilometers into the sky and you're in space. Space is not very far away. It's only 100 kilometers. And so the fruit flies just went up and then straight back down again. Laika was the first animal to go into orbit around the Earth. Okay. All right.
So,
Now,
where
the
did
Russians.
was it a really small rocket or was it very large?
Oh, it
When
was a
the-
very large rocket.
Okay.
It was a very
so,
large, very powerful
How
rocket.
do they know if it lived? If it came back and what if it
No,
destroyed?
no, the dog did not live. Basically, unfortunately, died when the
no.
oxygen ran out.
Yeah, Tazeen is correct. Your book is correct. They launched Laika the dog, and Russia, they just wanted to be first. They wanted to beat America, which they did, but they launched Laika and they didn't know how to bring her back to Earth, and she died of heat exhaustion actually in space. But the monkey Ham the chimpanzee, he survived. He was testing the same capsule that Alan Shepard would use when America launched their first astronaut into space. But Russia beat America again, launching Yuri Gagarin in 1961. Okay, in America, the first rockets to carry astronauts was Project Mercury. And it was all about survival, making sure all the astronauts did everything they did to stay alive. Then came Project Gemini, and it was all about how to live and work in space, how to do spacewalks, how to connect. So things like if you had a capsule in space, how another one could come up, find it, and then they could connect. Called docking. Everything they needed to know about going to the moon. All right. Then after that came Project Apollo, the moonshot. Now you can see on the left-hand side there, Dr. von Braun standing in front of the rocket, that big circular thing he's standing in front of.
Yes.
That big circle, that's not one rocket. That is one engine. That rocket had 5 of those huge engines. Okay. So that was the Saturn V. The Saturn V rocket was the tallest, heaviest, loudest, and the most powerful rocket that has ever been built. Elon Musk has one. He's planning to be more powerful, but it hasn't flown yet. So the Saturn V still holds the record. So weight, 3,000 ton. That's like 1,650 family-sized cars all stacked on top of one another. Okay, power. Do we all know that ship?
Yeah.
Yes, the Titanic.
Titanic.
That's the
Is it a
Titanic.
cargo?
Okay, try to imagine
It's a cruise ship.
3,478 Titanics. That's how much power this enormous rocket had. All right, noise. It was so loud at liftoff, they could detect the noise that rocket made on an earthquake sensor, 1,600 kilometers away. So more than 1,000 kilometers away, they could use an earthquake sensor and detect the launch. That's pretty amazing. Okay. Now, how tall? Do we know that statue?
Yeah, Statue of
Statue of
Liberty.
Liberty.
Okay. If that Statue of Liberty was next to the Saturn V, it'd be 30 meters taller than the Statue of Liberty. It would be taller than the Statue of Liberty. It was a huge rocket. Okay. How much fuel was
the
used?
rocket is small, but the launching of the rocket thing is bigger.
Oh, the launch was massive. Now, I would like you to imagine someone, one of your friends has a pool, a swimming pool. So not a really big Olympic pool, not a little tiny wading pool, just your backyard size pool, okay? Now, I want you to imagine that pool is now full of rocket fuel. That swimming pool is full of rocket fuel, okay? How long do you think it would take for that Saturn V to use up every single last drop of that swimming pool load of fuel? How long do you think it would take?
1,000 hours.
2 days. 2 days.
1,000 hours? 2 days?
More than 2
All
days.
right.
2 years.
3 seconds.
3 seconds. 3 seconds. All right. And your entire swimming pool load of fuel is gone. That rocket was massive. All right. Now, 384,400 kilometers to the moon. That is a lot of empty space to get lost in. So do you think the astronauts just pulled out their smartphone and said, Google Maps, Siri, take me to the moon. You think they did that?
No.
No, they didn't get Siri to give them directions. Hey, in 500,000 meters at the intersection, turn left to Moon Street. They didn't have that. So they had to have a very good computer, which you can see there on the screen. Now, here are the computers that you know. Desktops, laptops, smartphones, tablets. In the top left, there's the big iCloud mainframe computer. All right, how powerful do you think that computer was that showed the astronauts which way to point to get to the moon? How
As
powerful?
powerful as mainframe?
The big mainframe?
Yeah.
Phones. The phone.
As the phone? All right. That computer was as powerful as in Australia, a $5 calculator. The most basic
that's right.
calculator.
Yeah.
You have to remember, computers had only just been invented, and that was the best they can do. A computer that was as powerful as a basic calculator. Now, you go to space, you've got to have a spacesuit, right?
Yeah.
Yep, I think we all think that's reasonable. I like the man in the middle. If you look at him, I think he looks like a lighthouse with legs.
Yeah. Yeah. He
Yeah.
looks like
And then the guy on the right, he just needs to get on his horse because he looks like a knight from medieval England. Don't you think he looks like a knight with his armor?
Yeah.
And anyway, so
he looks like
NASA, the company who needed the spacesuits, came and looked at these and said, oh no, come on guys, get with the program here. They're hard, they're heavy. You have to make it out of something that is soft, light, and flexible. Those three properties. They have to be soft, light, and flexible. So the company that made the proper spacesuit, you can see there on the right, what do you think they made before spacesuits?
To breathe.
The what, sorry? Any ideas? What do you think they made the spacesuit?
an oxygen capsule.
No, they didn't do that. Not the capsule. It wasn't hamburgers. It wasn't hot dogs. It wasn't car tires. Any ideas?
They made a simple space tube.
No, they didn't make any of these other ones. Okay, the company that made the spacesuits that went to the moon, before spacesuits, they made ladies' underwear. How crazy is that? Okay, the company that made the spacesuits that went to the moon, before spacesuits, they made ladies' underwear. Okay, so this is probably a little bit much. This is a little bit of the definitions when we're talking about rocketry. So apogee is the highest point of the rocket flight. Trajectory, that's the path your rocket makes through the sky. All right, and there's a couple other things. I won't go into too much. We all know what the center of gravity is. That's the balance point where the rocket's balanced. And center of pressure is where the surface area is equal on both sides. Center of gravity is where the mass is equal on both sides. Okay, so surface area is equal on both sides. That's the difference between center of gravity and center of pressure. I'm going to show you a video. There's actually two videos here, and I want you to look at these rockets and tell me which one you think is stable and which one you think is unstable.
No, stable.
That was the first rocket.
Uh,
Wait for the second one.
yep, second one. And that is stable. Speed and
Okay. Which one do we think was stable? The first one
This
or the
one
second one?
The second one. The second one.
The second one.
It's
Second
definitely
one.
the second one. All right. What I think probably happened, if you look at my little rocket here, is up at the front here, when we build our rockets, that's where you put all your cameras and all your equipment to measure how high and how fast the rocket goes. What I think happened is that mount broke and went down towards the tail, and that threw out that center of gravity, center of pressure position, and that's why it made the rocket go unstable. Okay, so you've got to keep your rocket stable. The big rockets that the NASA and Roscosmos use, they have steering engines, and you can see how the little motors steer around, and they call what they call gimbal, and that's how you measure. That's what you call active stability. So there's a computer up the top of the rocket which talks to the engines down the bottom and corrects the flight. All right, this is for your senior students, and there's something. You got passive stability. That only works when you're flying within the atmosphere, because this is when we use fins. So the air goes over the fins and makes the rocket stable. Okay, and these are the video taken in Germany doing the test at Peenemünde during World War II. Now, you can have the best rocket in the world, but it's not going to go anywhere unless you have propulsion to give you that thrust force. There are two main ways which rocket engines work. For either of them, you must have fuel, you must have heat, and you must have oxygen. Just like when you've got a fire and you're cooking something over a campfire or something, the fuel is the wood, the heat comes from the match, and the oxygen is in the air we breathe. Okay, so what we do in rocket engines, we have two types. We have solid propellant, and liquid propellant. I'm going to play this video. The fuel is icing sugar. The extra oxygen comes from fertilizer, and the heat comes from the sparkler. I want you to imagine a campfire. Which one is burning quicker? Just watch this video. So which one was quicker, your campfire or that solid rocket fuel?
The campfire.
Well,
Campfire.
the rocket fuel burnt much quicker. It was also much hotter. If you look at the picture there, that aluminium foil, that tin foil is melted. So it was much hotter than a campfire, because a campfire won't melt tin foil. Okay, and it was burnt much quicker because it had more oxygen. Now, in this next video, it's the same fuel, but we put it into a clear plastic tube. And you can see what is going to be happening inside the engine when I light it off. So here we go. Okay, so you can see that engine combustion chambers now all burnt through. So solid rocket fuel, it's cheap. It's cheap, it's easy, but has one major disadvantage. Once you turn it on, you cannot turn it off. You hold on for the ride until you run out of fuel. That's the only way you can turn it off. All right, liquid fuel is different. Liquid fuel is much more expensive, much more complicated, but you can control it. You can make it go fast. You can make it go slow. You can make it go medium. The fuel is in liquid and in tanks. The oxygen is in liquid form in tanks. Pumps pull it through where the two are combined and it is ignited. Okay, so they're the two main types of rocket fuels. So this is now where we normally go out and launch a few rockets, but we can't do that today. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen, and it's going to start to get dark here in Brisbane. So I'm just going to turn my lights on. I'll be right back. There we go. Okay, so now I can see what I'm doing. Just turning my lights on. So that was my presentation on rockets. So you can now ask me whatever questions you like. So we don't talk over each other. When I see you raising your hand, then we'll ask a question and unmute your mic, and then we'll talk. So where is it? Anaga, have you got the question for me?
Yeah.
What's your question, Anaga?
It is that weren't you afraid on your first trip to inside your going all around the world?
No, I was so excited. I loved it. I love flying. I was excited. I understood what I was doing. So I wasn't scared. I was really, really excited. Not as excited as I was the first time I flew an airplane by myself. When I got into an airplane, it was in April in 1997, on the 25th of April. I at a little airstrip near my house. I took off and I flew around the airfield once by myself. That was really, really exciting. I loved that. My first flight when I was the captain. That was really good. I liked that. Okay, Aditya, what's your question, my friend?
Yeah, actually, what's the first place you go in the airplane?
How old was I?
No, what's the first place you go in the airplane?
The first type of airplane I flew into was a airplane called a Piper Aztec, and I was only about 2 years old. But then the first airplane I flew by myself was called a Cessna 152 was the first type of airplane I flew by myself. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Ah, fantastic. All right, where's my next question coming from? Okay.
Can you please tell me how the airplane flies?
Sorry, say your question again, please.
Sir, can you please tell me how the airplane flies?
How the airplane
Right.
flies.
It's because of the shape of the wing. All right, the shape of the wing is very important. I'll see if I can show you here with a piece of paper. All right, so can you see how the piece of paper is flat on the bottom and curved on the top? That's the shape of a wing. It's got a flat lower surface and a curved upper surface. That's how a wing works. It's very important. It's because of the shape of the wing, and then it goes through the air, and as the air goes over the top of the wing, it creates a force called lift, and it lifts the wing up into the air. It's the shape of the wing is the special thing. That's what makes airplanes fly, is air going over that special shaped wing.
Yeah, so
Next question.
my question.
Yes, Tazan.
So, can you tell me who is Captain John Young?
Captain John Young. Okay, John Young, he was an astronaut. He was the only astronaut to fly he flew Gemini, Apollo, and the space shuttle. He was also the chief of the astronaut corps. And he's passed away now. So yeah, Captain John Young, he was an astronaut from one of the earliest days at NASA. Is that the John Young you're thinking of?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a hero of mine. I would have loved to have met John Young, but unfortunately he's passed away. I have met astronauts that did know him, but I've never actually met John.
Yeah.
Next question.
Can I ask a question?
Zayn, of course you may.
Yeah. So when I do something wrong, which is really simple, my parents tell me that this is so simple, it's not rocket science. So is it really hard to learn rocket science?
Okay. Look, I know the expression your parents use. Yes, it's not rocket science when it's not too hard, but look, rockets, and these are the sort of rockets I want to see if I can send to you so you can start flying. These are the ones I'll try to see if we can find a way I can send my launch pads to you and you can launch some rockets. So these are very simple, and they are a rocket. these things here are a rocket by the correct definition. All right, they have everything they need to create that push force. But if you want to get a rocket to space, you know how I said it's only 100 kilometers into the sky to space? It's not that far. All right, you are further away from me here in Australia than space. Space is lots closer than India is from me. All right, space is not that far away. It's only 100 kilometers. However, you have to beat gravity to get there. And that's where it is difficult. To get into space, it takes a huge amount of power and energy. And to develop a rocket with that much power and energy, that is rocket science. And yes, that is a little bit tricky. That is hard to get into space. Some friends of mine are working on it. They're building a big rocket because in Australia, there has never been an Australian rocket go to space. There's been Australian satellites, but they went on American rockets. So my friends at Black Sky Aerospace are building a rocket to go to space. And I'm going to stay in touch with your teachers because when they launch that first all-Australian rocket, I'm going to see if we can have it live streamed into your classrooms. I'm going to send all the teachers I know an email of when it's going to be happening, and we'll see if we can watch that first rocket when it's going into space. I'm working on that at the moment. Okay. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Okay. Next question. Next question. Okay. Azan, what's your question?
Who is Dr. Robert? Who is Dr. Robert?
Oh, Dr. Robert Goddard. Is that the person you're asking about?
Yes, Dr. Robert.
Dr. Robert Goddard. Okay. He was the inventor of the liquid fuel rocket. So you know how we were talking about the two types of rocket fuel? I'll just show you the screen again because I can bring it back up. Hang on a minute. I'm just going to share this screen. Where are we there? So I'll bring it back. So this is a liquid fuel engine. Dr. Robert Goddard invented this. This is what Dr. Robert Goddard, not as big as this. Yeah, Dr. Robert Goddard passed away before we got astronauts into space, but he invented the liquid fueled rocket engine. That's what Dr. Robert did it. And his great niece is a teacher here in Brisbane. I've met Dr. Robert Goddard's great niece. That's pretty cool. She's a teacher. Okay, next question.
Over here, there's a picture given. It's not told about it, but it's a picture given about Pioneer 10 space robe. What is that?
Oh, Pioneer 10. That was one of the early probes that they launched. I think that was into the solar system. I don't think it went very far. Voyager is another probe. It was launched before I think most of us were born, definitely before I was born. And that's out past Pluto now. It's in interstellar space. But yeah, Pioneer probe was one of the first probes from America to go and search the solar system. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. Next question. Aganya, what's your question, my darling?
Why did you feel that you wanted to go around the world?
Why did I want to be a pilot, do you mean? I don't know. I don't know. I just love it. I absolutely love flying airplanes. Just like you love your mum. You just do. All right. Just like I love my wife. I don't know why I love my wife. I just do. I love flying. I just do. It's just me. My dad was a pilot. My granddad was a pilot. Both my sons want to be pilots. It's just something we've always done. I just love flying, and it's something I wanted to do. But unfortunately, a few years ago, doctors were doing. I was getting tired all the time, and I had to have a scan on my brain, and doctors found a tiny little problem called a lesion in my brain. And in January last year, I had to go to hospital and I had to have an operation on my brain to get rid of that lesion. And unfortunately, I'm not allowed to fly aeroplanes at the moment. I may never be allowed to fly aeroplanes again. But that's all right, because honest, look at how many smiles I've got right in front of me now. Look at all those fantastic smiles, and you are in India and I'm in Australia. I mean, how awesome is that? So I love what I'm doing now too, but I still love flying. But to answer your question, I don't know. I just love flying airplanes. I don't know what inspired me. It was just something I've always wanted to do.
So, from your childhood itself, did you want to become a pilot?
Absolutely. That's all I ever wanted to do. I didn't want to do anything else. All I ever wanted to do was be a pilot. I'll see if I can find a picture of, well, I've got you here, which might be a little bit difficult because, all right, I won't be a minute. This will just prove to you what I've been thinking. All right, where are we? My activity, my posts. All right, so. All right, so while I'm looking for this, you can, who's got another question for me? Next question, I'll keep looking for this. What's the next question for me? Another one, no more, okay, who is it there? Omar, what's your question, my friend?
What was your difficult flight? What was your difficult flight, sir?
Okay. Well, that's interesting because the most difficult I have is when I'm not actually flying. I'm in the simulator practicing, and we practice problems where they fail engines, they give me landing gear gets stuck up, they fail hydraulic systems, they turn the generators off. And so there's the challenging things. But in a real airplane, I had a problem one morning. I was taking off out of a place called Cairns in Queensland, and I lost a hydraulic system, and we had to, that was a little bit involved. There still wasn't a really bad problem, but I had to manage that and come back to land. But aeroplanes are very, very reliable now. The other challenges too, like going into Tokyo in Japan, I had to fly through snow to go into Tokyo one night, and then really low visibility going into Christchurch in New Zealand one night. It's just so much fun. You do something different every day. So I'm just seeing if I can show you this video, this photo, okay? I'm not sure if it's going to come up very well, but we'll see if I can show you. You see that little boy there?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know who that is?
Is that you?
That's me. That's me about, how old was I there? About 9. So that's about 32 years ago. That was me.
Whoa.
In my Australian Air League cadet uniform. So I was a cadet in the Australian Air League. So yeah, that was me as a little tacker, always wanting to fly airplanes. I've probably got more here too, actually. I might be able to find them. But all right, next question, please. I'm enjoying this. So make sure you get more questions.
Who is Ptolemy?
Sorry, say that again.
Who is Ptolemy?
Ptolemy. I've heard of the name. I'm just not 100% sure on it. Can you give me some extra information?
I don't know. It's not written over here, but people used to say so. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Ptolemy. I'd have to look that one up myself. Sorry, I don't know the answer to that one. Who Ptolemy was. All right.
Can I ask one question?
You certainly may, Maria. What's your question? Little astronaut. I love that. How cool is that? Maria, little astronaut. You know,
Yeah.
do you know, hang on, before we go anywhere, do you know there's been about, like I say, about 550, 600 people go into space, okay? Do you know less than 100 of them are women? There has hardly ever been any women go to space. There's been, 80% of astronauts and cosmonauts are male. Girls, let's do this. We need more girls in space. We need more girl astronauts. We need more girl pilots, more girl engineers. Go girls. That's what we need.
My dream is to be an astronaut.
Okay, all right. You know what I want you to do, Maria? I'm going to make sure you ask your teacher for my email address, And when you become an astronaut, you got to send me an email and you got to send me an invitation to when you're having your rocket launch, and I'm going to come and watch, okay? All right.
Okay.
Is that a deal? That's a deal?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. I can't wait for your rocket launch. You make sure you send me an email and I will be there. Okay. I promise that.
Can
If I know
ask
about it,
you a
I'll make sure there's a way to get there. You can. What's your question?
Where did you last fly in your aeroplane?
The last time I flew the big airplane, which was the 787, that was in 2016, early 2016. And it was after that I had problems and I couldn't fly. But I can still fly little airplanes with only one passenger. I flew one of those earlier this year. I'm looking forward to getting back into that again.
Did you have any injuries while flying the aeroplane?
No injuries, but I got sick once. That was not good. That was seriously bad day because I was on an overnight. Sorry, darling.
How was your experience with that?
Oh, not nice. So not nice because I got food poisoning. I got food poisoning on an overnight and I just wanted to get home. The quickest way to get home was to fly the airplane. And anyway, that was a bad idea. I so shouldn't have done that. And so I was sick while I was flying the airplane into a big plastic garbage bag. Not nice. Seriously, not nice. And anyway, the captain had to fly the airplane. And I was like, oh, heck, where are we? And the captain did it all. So that was no injuries, but that was the most unpleasant thing I've definitely had to deal with while I was flying. I've had some funny things. Like when you have captains, when you're on the PA saying, "Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck. This is your first officer speaking. My name's blah, blah, blah." And then they tell a joke or they make a funny face at you when you're making your PA, and then you start to laugh, right? And you're trying to be all serious and sound really professional, and they pull a funny face or they pass a note in front of you with a joke and you start to laugh. It's funny, but it's funny for the wrong reason. You're trying to be all professional, but they make you giggle when you're talking on the PA. Stuff like that. All right, next question.
How much does the fuel tank hold? Like how much liters of fuel does the tank hold? Yeah,
Okay. Depending on what airplane, the A330, don't worry about liters. It was tons. Okay, a rocket. Okay, again, depends on the type of rocket. The Saturn V, I think it was 3,000 ton, and almost 2,000 of it alone was just fuel. 2,000 ton. So yeah, weight is critical. Uses a lot of fuel. So the Airbus A330 carried 110 ton of fuel. So when I took off from Australia to go to Japan, we only took about 60 ton. We didn't fill the airplane all the way up. We only took about 60 ton because we didn't need to. And whenever you go around with lots of fuel, you burn fuel because you're heavier. So you only take the amount of fuel you need. You don't go around carrying extra fuel just because you can. Okay, next question.
Which is the first aeroplane you went?
Sorry, say that again, buddy.
Which is the first aeroplane you went?
The first airplane I went in was when I was about 2 or 3 years old. And it was a little tiny airplane called a Piper Aztec. So, yeah, that was a long time ago. That was nearly 40 years ago. Crikey, I am getting old, aren't I? Dear, oh dear. Okay.
Yeah.
All
May
right.
I ask a question?
Zayan, you ask as many questions as you like, my friend. What questions do you have?
Yeah. What do you like other than rocket science and being a pilot? What are your interests and hobbies?
You know what I like the most? What I'm doing right now. Talking to you.
What are your interests other than rocket science or piloting?
Okay, I see your question now, but I see one of the other things I do like is doing what I'm doing right now. But other interests, I believe it or not, I fly model airplanes, so airplanes with a radio control model, and I do that with my son. I we do model rockets like this all the time. So I'm a bit of a crazy nut job when it comes to things that fly. I'm pretty much into it. Okay, so I really like that. Other interests, I really like spending time with my friends, and we go out. But problem is, a lot of my friends are pilots and engineers, so I end up talking about airplanes anyway. I am a crazy airplane, aerospace, rocket nerd. I am a serious nerd. Okay, I'll go and watch YouTube documentaries on airplanes. You know, I am probably not the biggest airplane nerd, but I'd be up there, I can assure you. I do like spending time with my boys and my family. My eldest son, he started learning to fly. He's in the Air Force Cadets, so I'm very proud of him, and I like seeing him progress. I went to marching parades with him on Anzac Day this year, and my other son, he's flying model airplanes in competition, so I like to watch him as well. And then my wife and I like to go out and do other things as well. So yeah, that's one of the other things I like to do. Mainly airplanes, because I just love airplanes. Okay, next question.
Can I ask? Can I ask?
You certainly may.
What is your opinion about ISRO?
ISRO, I think it's great. As in the Indian Space Research Organization. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, I think it's great.
Yes.
It gives young people like you an opportunity to be involved in aerospace in your own country. Now, Australia has only just set up its own, the Australian Space Agency, in the past few years. It's very, very young. It's very new. ISRO's been around much longer, and you've been launching a lot more rockets. So I think it's great to have your own rocket and space research organization in your country. I think that's fantastic. And so where's Maria, my little astronaut Maria? She might end up being an astronaut with ISRO. So, or she might be able to, might even come to Australia and launch rockets in Australia. Who knows? You are the only people who's going to stop you from doing that is you. No one stops you. If you really want to do it, you'll find a way, and you'll work really hard and really smart, and you'll find a way. So yeah, I think ISRO's a good thing. So next question.
I have one more question.
Let me hear it, Maria.
So after my 12th grade, what should I open to be an astronaut?
Okay, so what sort of astronaut do you want to be? Do you want to be a pilot astronaut flying the vehicle? Or do you want to be a scientist when you go up into space to do research and study? What sort of an astronaut would you like to be?
The space.
Yeah, so do you want to be doing the research? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to find an area of science that you really love, and then do your university training in that area, and then you can get your doctorate, your PhD, and become very, very, very good at that subject, and then start to come up with different ideas, which might only work if you're researching things on Mars or on the moon, and then because that's where it's all going to be going in years to come, and then get really good, and then just keep looking and connect with astronauts, connect with ISRO, and then make sure they know who you are and what you're doing. I'd send them an email now. Send them, this is my name, I'm Maria, I go to primary school, I would like to be an astronaut. Start talking to those people now, send them an email and make sure they know about you. And then just don't let anyone tell you you can't. Don't let anybody say, no, Maria, you can't be an astronaut. There's no reason. You make it happen, okay? You remember, I've got to get an email. You got to invite me to your launch, okay? I want to be there, all right?
Yeah.
All right. Next question. Grown-ups. I don't mind if I get questions from grown-ups either.
Yeah, sir is already having a question. CRAN, sir, please.
Okay. All right.
Mr.
Oh, we're still on mute.
Sir, please unmute yourself, sir. You're on mute.
There we go.
Mr. Khan, may I ask a question?
Please do.
Okay. All the countries in the universe, they are launching rockets. Several rockets they are launching. What will be the position of the space? The spaceships are there. Every countries are sending their rockets. What will be the environmental condition of the space, whether it is polluted or not, or something like that? Can you tell me?
Sorry, just say the question again. So the position of the spacecraft?
No, what he says is, CRAN, when all the continents, I mean, all the countries launches rockets, there will be a lot of rocket remnants in the space. So what about
Yes.
space condition, whether it will be polluted? What about all
Okay.
the remnants that we man-made things are going
Right,
up in
I
space?
understand. Okay, well, this is very important that we're talking about this because it's called space junk. There's lots of it up there. And since we've been putting things into space, since we put Sputnik up there in 1957, there's lots of crowded pieces of old satellites and so forth up there. And so there are teams working on how to fix it. What one team is doing is they're sending up space probes to go and get the old ones and then harvest the precious metals and harvest all those old parts they don't need anymore and then recycle them and build satellites in space. So they're using the space junk to make more useful things with what they've got. So that's one project. But there's so many tiny little pieces of space junk which create a lot of problem. And I hate to say it, but I think this is one of the problems. You young people are going to have to come up with a solution. You're going to have to work on that team and come up with a way to minimize all this issue. So I think you're smart enough. I think every one of you could be smart enough to come up with a solution for that. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Very good, very good. Next question.
Have you seen the space?
Have I been to space? No, I've not been to space. The highest, remember you've got to go to 100 kilometers. And the highest I've been is about 9 kilometers. So yeah, I'm nowhere near space. So I've not been to space, but I've spoken, I've met people who have, and I've also know people who are building rockets to go to space. All right, next question.
Teachers, it's your chance to get clarified.
Absolutely. So any questions? Oh, I'm here. I'm in no rush. I don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, please feel free to ask.
Ask me lots of questions. Zayan, what are you planning? You look like you're really enjoying this. So what do you think you might like to do when you finish school?
I would be a pilot, I think.
You want to be a pilot? Yeah, that's what we like. Hang on, I'll show you. So I used to fly this type of aeroplane. All right, my dad gave this to me when I was flying little airplanes in outback Australia. That was one of the airplanes I flew.
Yeah, you showed us the picture.
That was the airplane called the Dash 8. And I've also flown this one here, the 787. So that's the fastest airplane I've ever flown. So I got up to I got to transonic speed. I was nearly supersonic one night out of Tokyo flying an airplane like this. So yeah, it's lots of fun. So yeah, all right. But make sure you send me an email to Zan where you finish your pilot training. All right. I definitely want to hear about all these stories about how amazing you young people become. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Next question.
So, are you working with your friends to build a rocket?
Oh, I'm not actually working on the rocket, but what I am working on is promoting it. So I know as many people as I know can find out about it. That's the main job I'm working on at the moment.
Okay.
And make sure you guys know about it. So when it is launched, we can live stream that launch into your classrooms. So hopefully it's at a good time in Australia and also a good time in India. So you're not all, I don't know, it's not at 2 o'clock in the morning and you're all sleeping or something like that. So we'll see how we go. Unfortunately, we can't all be awake because, yeah, some of us will be sleeping. All right. Next
Hi,
question.
sir.
Yes.
I'm Aisha. I have a question to you. How often can you go into a space?
Okay. Well, I don't think there's a real problem with how often you can, except there's a lot of people who want to do it with you. So they've got to be fair. And it costs millions of dollars to send a human being into space. So one of the big problems is you can't stay in space for too long because all your bones and muscles, because you're in zero gravity, your bones and your muscles aren't working as hard. So Scott Kelly, he was an astronaut from America who was in space for almost a year. He came back and almost had to completely learn how to walk again. Even though he was exercising 4 hours a day on the space station, he almost had to learn how to walk again because you just weren't using your muscles. You're floating around in space. So that's one of the biggest problems, is staying up there for extended periods of time. And so here's another problem for all you young people to sort out. When we start sending missions to Mars, how are we going to fix that? How are we going to make it so people can spend, because it's going to take nearly a mission to Mars is probably going to take 9 months, then probably 3 months at least on the ground in Mars, then another 6 months coming back. So you'd be nearly a year and a half getting on a Mars mission. So how are we going to stop all our bones and muscles from wearing out because we're not using them? So that's a big problem. And I think it's going to be one of your scientific brains that'll have to fix that up. So that's the main problem, is spending too much time in space rather than how often you can go to space.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you. Okay. Next question. Anybody? All right. Azana, you got your hand up?
Yes. Have you ever been in an Airbus? A type of plane, an Airbus?
Yeah, that's my favorite. The Airbus is my favorite. I flew the Airbus A320. I'll bring up my PowerPoint again and I'll show you. Where are we? I'll get rid of that one. I'll just bring this one up. So I'll share my screen again. Hang on, where are we? All right. All right, I'm just going to share my screen. Where are we here? And I need this one. Okay, so I'm going to put this one up here. Okay, so that's the Dash 8 I flew, my first job flying an airliner. That's the first Airbus I flew. I flew the Airbus A320. This was my favorite, the A330. That was so much fun, that airplane. It was really nice to land, and it wasn't the fastest airplane I flew, but it was just a beautiful, beautiful airplane to fly. So yes, I've definitely flown the Airbus. I've flown two of them, the Airbus A320 and the Airbus A330. And I've also flown that one, the Boeing 787, and all these different other types of airplanes as well. I've flown about 25 different airplanes throughout, since the day I started learning to fly till now. These are all the different types of airplanes I've flown. Okay, I'll close that screen share down. Okay, so yes, I definitely have flown an Airbus. Love flying Airbus. Okay, next question.
So I have heard in lots of stories and books that when we go to space, we will grow much larger, we'll be more taller in size than when we are living on Earth. Is that true?
That's right. Not huge, not a lot. You wouldn't be a lot taller because gravity is pulling us down, isn't it? We stand on Earth and gravity is pulling us down. All right. Can you feel gravity in space?
No.
No, you can't. So you've got nothing pulling you down. So yes, you do get a little bit taller in space. So that is absolutely true, because you don't have gravity pulling you down to slow you to pull you down towards Earth.
Thank you.
All right. My pleasure. Next question. I must have done a really good job because I got no questions. Goodness me. All right.
Exactly said, CRAN. Thank you. Thank you. It's almost 1:45, 1:50 here in India. Yeah, it's
Right.
past lunchtime already. The kids used to have their lunch. I think they usually have their lunch at 1 o'clock here. But they are not feeling any hunger at all now because the session has been that wonderful and fantastic. They kept listening to you. They didn't leave the session at all. So I think we can wrap up the session. What do you say, children?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I just want to say a big, big, big thank you to Mr. CRAN for spending time with us, right? For being patient, for talking to us in our own speed so that we can all understand. He has changed his dialect. He had slowed down his way of talking so that we can understand. And he has been so open to us, right? He was talking everything in the way that we understand. He was showing all his childhood photos. So what a fantastic session it was, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had lots of fun too.
Yeah, we don't feel any more alienation of this rocket science. Even though it's first of its kind, we were actually worried about how the children will be understanding as we have that stigma word, it's rocket science. So it will be definitely, we were so afraid whether the kids will be able to digest it or not. But I just feel like, yeah, you just drifted children to that outer world and they have started dreaming already. So within this one session, at least one of them has got inspired to become a pilot. Suddenly change of
Absolutely.
dream.
Yeah, so we've got Maria, little astronaut, young lady. I will see you at your launch. And Azan, where are you, mate? There you are. All right, you make sure you let me know. Now, if anyone has any questions, okay, send me an email. Your teacher's got my email address. I don't mind how many questions you got. You send them to me and I will answer them as best I possibly can. All right?
So what is your email address?
It's
That's the email address, children. Yeah, I'll share it to you. Okay.
yeah, we share there because it's a very long email address.
Yeah, even
So
you can just search for CRAN MIDDLECOAT. You can Google CRAN MIDDLECOAT. You can get all his details. What he said just now is really, yeah, he's a nerd of yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to put it in the chat.
Yeah, he's there. You can take note of it.
Okay, so there is my website address. And my email address is
.com.au. It's rocketscience.com.au.
And there is my email address. Okay.
CRAN at rocketscience.com.au.
I have taken a screenshot.
My pleasure. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. I think all you guys can be an amazing, amazing young people. All right.
Thank you so much.
The only person who's going to stop you from doing anything is you. You guys can go out and you can do anything you put your minds to. Don't let anyone tell you you can't. The only person who's going to stop you is you. Okay? You can be amazing.
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you. Thank you for that wonderful quote, CRAN. And thanks to the technology joining us from another part of the earth, talking to us for this much hours. Thanks to the pandemic and thanks to technology. And thank you so much for whatever you do. Please keep continuing doing others, inspiring others. The whole family is into this aerospace geek. So we are all so much inspired into this. Thank you so much. May God
I'm going to
bless
show you one more thing.
All right.
Here we go. Okay. Here's Bob.
Wow, see,
Okay.
look at that.
That's my friend. That's my dog. He's
Children,
Bob.
it's a living
There you
dog,
go.
okay?
He's
Not
Bob.
a toy. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a stuffed toy. When I
He's a
toy,
shooter.
it was
What's his good name? Yeah.
Bob.
What's his
Yeah,
name?
no, he's just Bob. He's Bob. And so
Bob.
he's not. Bob, B-O-B. So he snuggles up between my wife and I and sleeps in the same bed we do. Don't you, mate?
Great, great.
And he
Hi,
likes
Bob.
scratches under the neck.
A big hi from Craftwell School, Bob.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that very much.
Is
Okay.
Bob lucky to fly with you anytime?
Oh, no, he doesn't come flying with me. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should take you flying, Bob.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe we should do that.
Bob is the luckiest person to
Yeah.
fly with you, right? Yeah, okay.
All right.
Thank you so much. Please
And
tell our
lastly-
love and regards to Sarah Middlecoat as well and both of your sons. We are proud of you, the whole family. Please keep continuing doing what you're doing. Thank you so much, CRAN.
Thank you very much.
Children,
Thank
let's
you for
all
having
say
me.
thank you. Thank you to CRAN. A big shout out.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
Cran.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
We'll make him proud one day, right?
Yeah.
You will make him proud one day for giving us this session and inspiring us to follow his path, right?
Yeah.
Good job. You make your own paths. You don't need, just
Great.
because I've done it doesn't mean you do it. You make your own paths, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. So let's all
Okay,
write
team.
about how the whole session went through so that I can share your feelings with him. Okay, all of you please send me a note in the group how the session went so that I can forward it to him. All right.
That would
Yeah.
be great. I'd really like that.
Yes,
Especially,
yes.
and make sure you
Definitely.
include your name. Like I like Maria Little Astronaut. Make sure you include Maria Little Astronaut. I like that.
Excuse me.
Sure,
All
sure.
right, and Zayn, future Airbus captain. You can do that.
Yeah, thank you so much for those words. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan, it was very
Yes, sir.
amazing. And it was very amazing, the presentation and the everything to the Craftware School and its teachers and the family. We have all were in the space for last 1.5 hours. Okay, thank you very much. And we expect your coordination and support for the school. Intermittently, please try to come like this online. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me. I've enjoyed myself. I've had a great time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, team.
Thank you.
Let's stay in touch. I'll
Thank
see you
you,
again next
sir.
time, okay? Thank
Okay,
you.
sir. Thanks.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. See you
Bye,
then.
sir.
Bye,
Bye.
sir.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, children. We can leave now. Thank you.
All right. Craft World School. All right, teachers. Thank you very much
so
for having me.
much. Yeah. Please pass by. Please come to our school whenever you fly to India. You can just search for Craftwell School in Google. Thank you.
Okay.
Very
Oh,
near.
I'd love to get there.
Sorry
Yeah.
for that. Yeah. It's
That's
very
all
nearby
right.
to the airport. So once you come to India, Kerala, please give us a call. You can just drop by to the school. Yeah, we'll come and pick you from the airport and we can have some good time together.
Oh, I'd like that. I like Indian food, so I'm going to the right place, don't I?
Great, great. Yeah. If you could share your address, we could courier something that you can eat from there. We are much obliged for this session. Wonderful session.
Have you ever
Right,
been
please.
to India?
Sorry, sir?
Have you ever been to
Have you ever
India?
been to India?
No, I've not been to India. I'd like to though. So yeah, no, very interesting nation to come and to be a part of. I'd like to visit. Hopefully, COVID changes. I've had my shot, so hopefully I'll be able to travel soon.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very
Thank you
good.
so much, man. Thank you for your
My
time.
pleasure. All right, I've been summoned. My wife's giving me a call out. It's dinner time here in Queensland, so I better keep moving. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Okay.
time.
My pleasure.
Bye. Bye.
See you
Bye.
soon.
God bless you.
Okay, bye now.